weekend, for the first weekend of December, we had frost and then snow. This weekend we've been treated to a very, very rainy forecast, which is not the best weather to be going out and enjoying the festivities, but equally I have no complaints because my friend Em is currently on the train up from London to spend the next couple of days here, and regardless of the rainy weather, I'm determined that we are going to have the most wonderful festive weekend. So I'm just getting ready and about to have a little cup of tea before heading out to go and pick her up from the train station. But before any of that, I've set myself a little bit of a challenge to try out this morning, because some of you may have seen that earlier this week Taylor Swift was awarded Time's Person of the Year award, and because of that she was on a magazine cover with her cat Benjamin, who is a ragdoll, and she basically draped him around her shoulders like a scarf. And I've seen so many people trying this on TikTok, and I want to give it a try with my two cats. So Benjamin is a ragdoll, and obviously they're well known for being very like limp and docile. Oscar is a ragamuffin, so he has got some ragdoll tendencies, but also not quite as docile and limp as a ragdoll would be. And then Raymond, as you all know, is a brand new ginger kitten. So the fact is that he's a kitten, which means he's very energetic, and he has orange fur, which means that he is absolutely mental. So I don't know how it's going to go, but there is ultimately only one way to find out. And as you might be able to hear, I already have Oscar ready for his performance. So here we are. Okay, Ozzy. Okay. No, you've got to stay on. Please. Harder than it looks. Okay, we're going to give it another try. Okay. I need you to stay on my shoulders. Okay. He's very heavy when you try to hold him like this. Okay. He's looking at me like, what the hell are we doing? Ozzy! Look up at the camera. Okay, cat number one, I would say, is a success. Now I need to go and get Raymond, who is currently in his room, and give him a try. So, much smaller, which means that he should, in theory, be easier to handle, but also possibly a bit more mental. No, you need to go around my shoulders, don't you understand? Okay, I've got him. Okay. Is that a success? I'm not sure. I don't think it's actually quite long enough to be a scarf, but he's certainly very adorable, so there we go. Thank you, cats. You have made my morning very successful. Okay, cats have been released from their duties. I feel like they both did a pretty good job. And now it's time to find out what flavour tea I'm going to be drinking this morning. So today is obviously day 9 of December. So we'll pop it out and then find out what flavour we've been given. So door number 9 is... oh. Not very inspiring. It's a Yorkshire breakfast tea, which I must admit I've already drunk this morning because I'm from Yorkshire. We only drink Yorkshire tea. Many of you will know that I'm a huge fan of the Yorkshire tea breakfast brew, so that's what I've already had this morning. So I might just pop this one to one side because I don't really fancy a plain tea right now, and I've already had one, but we can all assume that it is probably a tasty but equally not particularly exciting flavour tea. So there we go. I suppose there had to be one or two that were just going to be really boring, but equally my personal preference in an advent calendar would always be that it is all like fun flavours that you wouldn't get anywhere else, because I can pick up a Yorkshire tea anywhere. I have it in my little like cupboard all the time, so it's like I kind of look for these advent calendars for something that gives me tea flavours that I wouldn't otherwise come across or easily be able to find in shops. Yorkshire tea, Earl Grey, I guess like a plain green tea, or like a really boring herbal tea. These are all ones that you can find easily, and so it doesn't seem as exciting when it's in the advent calendar, but nonetheless, that's day number 9. I need to go and get ready to go and meet Em, and then first thing today we're heading into York. There's loads of Christmas markets there. I think it's going to be insanely busy, but some of you might know that both Em and I used to live in York, so as well as going to the Christmas markets, we're also reminiscing and taking a trip down memory lane by going to some of our favourite cafes that we used to go to all the time in York. So that's today, and I'm very, very excited. excitingly, I'm not the only one doing a tea taste test this morning because Em is obviously here. I'm tasting my tea advent calendar tea, which today is the flavour of movie night popcorn.
That
and it's
sounds so nice.
It's a rooibos flavour tea.
It's not.
So, yeah. I don't actually think it smells that popcorny, but...
It smells like something. Obviously.
Licorice?
It smells like honey nougat.
Oh, that's quite a nice thing for it to smell like.
Yeah.
And then you're tasting...
And then I'm tasting Kira's Christmas present to me, which is some chocolate digestive tea. Very exciting. I love a black tea. I was saying to Kira, if they did tea advent calendars, which were like black tea infusions, I'd be all over that. But because I'm not a green tea girl.
No, and there's so many herbal teas out there, like black tea is a bit of a rarity, so I tried that one.
Rarity.
I tried that one in my advent calendar last year and I thought you'd like it because we both love a biscuit tea, so
yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. This is going to be hot. That
Your
does
reaction
taste
is
like...
definitely better than mine.
That does taste like a chocolate digestive. This cup is so hot that I might lose my fingers, but...
So you like it?
Yeah, how do they get it to taste like a chocolate digestive?
I don't know if biscuit is just such a good flavour for tea because obviously we've tried Yorkshire tea, biscuit tea, M&S shortbread tea, you've tried the Aldi one, and I felt they all just do it so well.
Yeah.
So I feel like biscuit,
like
clearly,
a multi-flavour is quite easy to transfer to tea, I feel
clearly.
like.
Now on the other hand, this one is a really nice tea, but if I'm completely honest, it just tastes like a nice like rooibos tea. It doesn't taste like
Popcorn.
But delicious nonetheless, but I wouldn't say it necessarily lives up to
expectations.
What
What's been your
title
favourite
says.
one out of the calendar so far?
To be honest, I think it might be day one, which was
Rosie.
no, it wasn't. It was pancake stacks. It was a black tea. But
Is it from Yawn Brew?
Yeah.
I've had the pancake stack one from T2, and that they don't sell it anymore. I was going to get it for Christmas, but they don't sell it.
Well, I really liked it because it was basically just a black tea, but it had like a vanilla-y maple flavour. It was delicious.
Yum.
And then they did have candy cane popcorn, which I thought was really nice.
It tastes like popcorn.
Again, not really, but I think the candy cane flavour was nice.
So they've got all flavours but popcorn.
All flavours of popcorn, but they're determined to keep going. Okay, next up, I thought we'd also do a little bit of a reading update since is a ex-booktuber.
The first time booktubers see me in a while and I'm looking like this.
So, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Should we do like a
What
reading
are we doing
update?
now? Yeah.
And then the books we bought yesterday.
I love that.
Because we went out to York yesterday. Which you will have
Obviously.
seen.
Yeah.
And we both bought a book. So the book that I am reading is Every Exquisite Thing by Laura Stephen. And I wanted to pick this up because she has just announced a book that's coming out in a couple of years, which is based off Exile by Taylor Swift. I know.
Stop.
I know. And
that
so,
sounds incredible.
And I remember reading her like YA contemporary when I was a few years ago when I went to Yalk, and so I wanted to pick up the one that I haven't read, and this is the Picture of Dorian Gray retelling, which I actually don't, so it's a telling to me, so I actually don't know anything about the Picture of Dorian Gray, but it's kind of like a gothic, like a modern gothic dark academia sapphic romance, I think. I'm not very far into it, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I like Laura Stephen's writing style a lot.
Nice. I like the cover of that as well.
Yeah.
But Exile, that's one of my favourite Taylor Swift songs.
I knew.
feel like I need that.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, not very exciting. Well, that's a lie. It is exciting, but it's not new because I'm still reading Little Women, plodding along with my reread. This week, I needed to get between chapters 9 and 21 to keep up with the reading schedule that I've set for myself, and I'm currently just in the midst of chapter 21, so I've done it, which I'm quite pleased with because I was quite far behind, but this morning I got up a lot earlier than Em did, so I had plenty of time to catch up.
I'd like
on
to
some
say,
reading.
it's only just gone 9, so Kira's the weirdo, not me.
No, I am. I was up at 6, so that's my fault. But it was perfect, like, to get some reading done because I really did feel like I'd fallen behind, and I feel like I've been saying this for every little section of Little Women, but I feel like I keep going like, I really like the few chapters that I've just read, and I'm always conscious that I'm so familiar with the story and I don't want to give spoilers for things that have happened.
There are actually quite a few spoilers you can give in Little Women.
I mean, there's so much because, I mean, it's such a chunky book and so much happens, but I'll say that in the chapter that we've just read, I feel like there is a bit of a divide going on between Jo and Meg, because Meg, I feel like, is starting to reach the point of her, like, late adolescence where she's starting to think realistically about about like moving on with her life, getting married and like starting a home of her own, whereas Jo is really desperate to like cling on to childhood and their like family unit, and I feel like they're struggling there because they've always been so close, and yet at this point they've got such different ambitions for their futures, and Jo especially I think is really struggling to reconcile with the fact that Meg is kind of like growing up and moving on, which I feel like is really interesting because this is like such a close group of sisters, and naturally they're not all going to be the same, and I feel like that is true in families in general, where like you can be really close but ultimately like you all do like fly the nest, but different people do it at different times, and that can be, I guess, like a source of tension. So I do love this book because I feel like it's obviously set in the 1800s, and yet a lot of it in terms of like how family dynamics work still feels very relatable to like modern day family units. So I really like it. So
I also love that edition.
I know,
I've got
it's
that one.
absolutely gorgeous. I feel like this is probably the most beautiful book that I own. It's really
it's a really nice
so
book.
next week I'll be reading from chapters like 22 to like, I want to say 33. It's on my schedule somewhere, which will be in the description box, but very much enjoying this read along, and I can't believe there's only 2 weeks left of it. That's pretty wild. But that's what I've currently been reading. Next on to books that we picked up yesterday, which was for you.
So I got mine from Waterstones, and I have seen this all over Bookstagram, but I don't know much about it. And it is Betting on You by Lynn Painter, and I mainly got it because look how nice the colour scheme is. Is that going to focus? Is that focused?
I think so.
Yeah, the colour scheme is just so nice. I think I own another book by Lynn Painter that I haven't read, but I think it's a friends to love, like enemies to lovers, but then they become friends to lovers, and then they become determined to prove to the other one that you can be friends without falling in love, ... and then I think they'll fall in love. But it just sounds really good. I've heard great things about her writing, and I just love a pretty book. Look at the spine.
I just
it's
think
so
that
pretty.
The minty greeny blue and then the pink is just so beautiful.
It calls to me.
And I actually think if I was asked what was my favourite shade of pink, it would be that shade.
That pink. It's a really nice
shade.
shade of pink. So yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but I'm excited because I think after a dark gothic academia, like a rom-com will be on the cards. So very excited about that.
Love that. And obviously on the subject of sort of like, I guess, balancing out what you're reading, obviously I'm reading a classic, which I am loving, but also they are just a little bit more intensive to read, and I'm also still listening to the audiobook of The Drift, which is also quite an intense horror type novel. So the book that I picked up yesterday is the complete opposite of that, because it is The Christmas Book Club by Sarah Morgan, which I feel like just looks so cute and festive, and I'm assuming will just be a really light-hearted, easy to read sort of, I don't know if there's going to be any romance in it actually, or if it's just like a genuinely
I don't actually know.
heartwarming book, but you said it was a bestseller.
Yeah, I think it was a #1 bestseller.
And I saw it in W.H. Smith of all places yesterday for £4.49, which for a brand new book is unheard of. Like I honestly just couldn't resist it. So in this one we've got a group of friends who reunite every year for their like holiday book club, but apparently there's secrets going on between these friends, and I guess like the friendship might not be as strong as they potentially think it is, and they go to a place, which this was really what sold the book for me. They go to the Cosy Maple Sugar Inn, and I just thought that was incredible.
That sounds like the name of a candle.
And the person who owns this inn specialises in making her guests' dreams come true, but apparently all that she's looking for this Christmas is to survive the festive season, because things are sort of getting difficult between being a mum, running the inn, and trying to sort of manage life. So I feel like there's probably going to be a few different layers to this story and lots of different characters, and I hope it's going to be really nice and easy but cosy and festive to read. And I also have to show off one of the Christmas presents that Em got me, because it was incredible. It's a bookmark, which I honestly don't normally use. I must admit I am a page
I'm not a bookmark
folder,
user. Yeah, I'm the same.
but it is this. Let's hope we get some focus here.
It deserves the focus.
It deserves focus more than anything else does.
Oh,
Okay, there we go. So we have this Eras Tour ticket bookmark, which is personalised because it's actually got the date that I'm going to be seeing Taylor Swift next year and the stadium that I'm going to, which is Edinburgh. So I just feel like this is such a gorgeous, like, personalised gift, but also practical because it's a bookmark. And I love it. So thank you.
You're welcome. And the owner of that small business is called Fleur on Sunday, and I feel like she's just swept BookTok and Bookstagram. She does so many bookmarks. She does like Gilmore Girls bookmarks, festive seasonal bookmarks.
Definitely.
So if you're looking for a present, if you're looking for a present for someone, Fleur on Sunday is a great shop. Yeah, would highly recommend.
And on that note, I think we're going to finish our teas, eat some breakfast, and then we're going to get ready to go out for the day. We're going into town hopefully going to get myself a few Christmas presents. No, I'm not going to get myself any Christmas presents. I'm going to do some Christmas shopping, and then unfortunately Em has to go all the way back down to London, away from me again. But cheers!
Cheers!
Like the song that goes, just another manic Monday, is very apt for how today has gone for me. It's been quite a hectic day, certainly not a day that has gone to plan, but also not a bad day by any stretch of the imagination. The chaos of Monday actually started yesterday afternoon because I was in town with Em. Our plan was do a bit of Christmas shopping, go for some lunch, and then we were going to head to the train station and part ways, and she was going home to London. But what actually happened was that we sat down for our lunch and Em got a notification that her train to London was cancelled, which it turns out was not just a one-off cancellation, but actually a cancellation of every single train from Leeds to London yesterday afternoon because there was some really bad weather, loads of wind, and some trees or something had fallen over on the overhead lines, and it meant that no trains could go through a specific part of the route. So obviously that meant that instead of being able to go home yesterday evening as planned, ended up staying here for another night, which in the sense of her having to like rearrange her work week and not get home when she thought she was going to do, it was obviously not an ideal situation, but from the perspective of having like an extra evening together we weren't expecting, it was actually really nice, and I think she enjoyed the extra night here. We had the fire on, got to chill with the cats, but it was more so the fact that she knew that the journey to London was still something that had to be done, and it's just the impending doom when one journey has been cancelled and you just don't know if it's going to happen again. But as we speak, she is now on the train to London, and it is currently delayed at the same station where the overhead line issues happened yesterday, because they've happened again today. So fingers crossed she gets home, because she's far enough away from my house now that I'm of no use to her. But either way, she stayed here yesterday evening, luckily had her laptop with her, so she was able to work from home this morning, and it was really nice, although definitely somewhat distracting, but it was really nice to have a friend to do a little bit of home working with, because I'm used to just working with myself and my cats, but never really any colleagues. So that was the first thing that sent Monday into a spin. The second thing was the fact that as we were driving home from town yesterday, my car started making a horrific noise, really bad, and not the sort of thing that you want to hear coming from your car ever, but certainly not in the lead up to Christmas when you really don't want to waste money on anything unnecessary. So I had to take the car to the garage this morning, and thank God something was just loose underneath the car and they ended up fixing it free of charge, which I was so grateful for. So I feel like between a friend staying over and my car being broken and just Monday in general, today has just felt a little bit chaotic. So it is now Monday evening and I haven't yet opened the advent calendar. So without further ado, we are on to door 11 and I am absolutely desperate to find out what tea I'm going to be drinking. So without further ado, we have chocolate cake. I don't think I've ever had a chocolate cake tea. I've had teas that have bits of chocolate in, like a chocolate digestive tea, like the one I bought Em, but I feel like chocolate cake is a bold statement. It is a black tea with cocoa husks, cocoa beans, calendula petals, and natural flavours, which I'm going to make in just a second. And as I make that tea, I'm also going to chat to you about what I'm planning to read this evening, because I'm carrying on with Little Women, but I have a new book, not the book that I was planning to start, but something different, which I'm very excited about. And finally, I wanted to show you the mug that I'm having my tea in today, because it's one that I picked up yesterday in anthropology, and it is this cat mug. It has loads of different types of cats on, but the reason I ended up buying it was because of this specific cat, which is a ragamuffin, and if you ask me, it is giving major Oscar vibes, so I just had to get it. So without further ado, let's make a tea. if someone just handed this to you blind, you would think you were smelling a hot chocolate rather than a cup of tea, because it smells that intensely chocolatey, which I feel like can only be a good thing, and I'm hoping is very promising for the flavour. But I am going to let it brew for just a couple more moments whilst I chat to you about the book that I've decided to start reading this evening. Now this book has come, I want to say highly recommended, but I feel like that wouldn't even do justice to how much Em has insisted that I read this book. So it was highly recommended slash thrust upon me by Em, who said that it is the best book that she's read this year and that she has already read it 3 times in 1 year. She thinks and is confident that it's going to be my favourite book of the year, and I feel like with those recommendations I have no choice but to read it immediately. So that book is Talking at Night by Claire Daverley. Now Em has recommended this book on the basis that it is a contemporary literary fiction in the realm of Sally Rooney, but, and I quote, better than Sally Rooney according to Em. Now for me that is such high praise, because Sally Rooney's first 2 books, Conversations with Friends and Normal People, are 2 of my favourite books of all time, and I would say that Conversations with Friends is actually my favourite like modern contemporary book ever. I absolutely love it. So to say that it is better than that is really high praise for me and has made me very excited. I feel like just based on the cover alone, which is very simple, I'm very excited, because I think books with this style of cover, they just always seem to be good, and I feel like there's just something about them that is so intriguing. So without going too much into the plot of this book, because honestly I don't know too much about what it's about, it seems to be about 2 people, I think Will and Rosie are the characters' names, yep, they meet as teenagers, and I think the premise of the book is essentially 2 people who potentially could have been like the one for each other, but things never really panned out that way. So it's almost like a what could have been narrative, but they keep kind of orbiting around each other, coming back into each other's lives, and it seems as though there's many circumstances where they kind of could have gone in a certain direction romantically, but it just never seems to happen, and yet it kind of seems that because this keeps happening so often that potentially they are meant to be together. So I'm excited about it, and I'm definitely going to start it this evening after dinner, but for now I'm going to try my cup of tea, which is chocolate cake tea, and I'm hoping it tastes as chocolatey as it smells. So let's give it a go. That does taste really chocolatey. That kind of tastes like when you dip a chocolate biscuit into a cup of tea, because I feel like a hot chocolate is so richly chocolatey and obviously very milky, whereas a cup of tea is always going to be more watery and therefore a little bit lighter and more refreshing, but I feel like it has a really nice sort of mellow hint of chocolate mixed in with a cup of tea, which I feel like without being a biscuity flavour just has that inkling of like, oh, I've just eaten a little bit of chocolate and then washed it down with a cup of tea, which I actually feel like is really lovely. So I'm going to enjoy this cup of tea. I actually said I was going to start reading the book after dinner, but I think I might have just enough time to squeeze in a few pages whilst I drink this cup of tea and before I put dinner in the oven. So I will of course report back on what I think of the book, but for now it's time for a tea and to relax after what can only be described as a manic Monday. Partially because it is so cold and grey today, and partially because I am enjoying this book so much that all I really want to do is just sit down and devour it. I have absolutely zero desire to leave the house today, but unfortunately it's my lunch break now and I have to go to the shops because our phone charger wire has broken, and obviously we need one. So I'm going to go out and get a new phone charging wire, because otherwise I shall be without a phone, and that's not a situation I want to be in. So have to leave the house, there's just no way around it, and that means that instead of spending my lunch break sitting at home in a cosy living room with the Christmas tree lights on reading this incredible book, I have to go and brave the cold weather. To make it slightly more bearable, I am going to make my cup of tea in a keep cup and take it out for the walk with me so that I have something nice to keep my spirits up whilst I'm out in the cold. So let's find out what I'm eating today. Drinking on day number 12. Can you believe we're halfway through the advent calendar? That is actually a little bit crazy. Ooh, hello. Okay. Apparently I've got a golden ticket as part of this advent calendar day, so I'll have to figure out what that means later. But day number 12 is morning mate. What does that mean? It is apparently apple, rose hip, orange pieces, hibiscus flower, sunflower, safflower, rosemary, green mate leaves and natural flavours. So I actually have no idea what to expect from that. It sounds very, very fruity, so we'll have to see how that tastes, but ultimately it will be warm and that is the main thing. So I'm going to make that and head out to the shops to go and get a charger, but first we must talk about this book. I started it yesterday evening. I'm now on page 163, which is almost halfway in, and I cannot wait to see what happens. This book is just so beautifully written, and what I love about contemporary literary fiction books like this one is just the way that they are written in such a simplistic way, not in the sense that the way that the story is written is boring, but it just feels very light touch and therefore realistic, so that when emotions are being described or characters are in certain situations, nothing overly dramatic necessarily is happening, and it's not being described in an overly sort of flowery or dramatic or exciting way, and yet because of the way that emotions are described, it just feels so relatable and realistic. And I think these characters just do feel quite real because of the fact that you almost imagine that you could just come across them in your everyday life, whereas in a lot of books, characters do feel like characters, and I feel like Claire Daveley has just done such a good job of creating really realistic characters, especially in our two protagonists, Rosie and Will. Now this book starts as the characters are in their final year of sixth form, and Rosie and Will meet because Will is tutoring Rosie's twin brother in maths, and they kind of start this flirtation, but Rosie is super driven, focused on her studies and desperate to get into Oxford, and so she kind of decides that the romance is not something that she wants to pursue, despite the fact that they have just this inexplicable connection with each other, and that instead she's just going to focus on her studies because she's going to university, and that's that. She is not about to get distracted by a boy. But obviously, despite that decision, there is just this connection that neither of them can deny. And I feel like the book is just, yeah, really simple, and yet is just capturing the experience and stresses of deciding what you want to do with your life, meeting someone at a time in your life where you're kind of like at a crossroads about leaving your childhood behind and moving forward into your own life as an adult, and I guess deciding whether or not the people you meet at that, I guess, like liminal time in your life are people that you want to take forwards or leave behind as like a relic of the past. And I just think it has captured that moment in time so well, and now the characters have moved on past school and we're seeing them in their early adult life, and I feel like it is just lovely. I love books where you get to see characters over an extended period of time as well, so really enjoying this one. I will say, without giving away any spoilers, I've already been significantly surprised by some of the things that have happened in this book, really taken me like off guard and just, yeah, caught me unaware, but incredible, and I can't wait to read more. So obviously not gonna have time to read at lunchtime, but as soon as I log off my laptop at the end of the day today, you better believe that book is the first thing I'm going to be turning my attention to. But for now, tea time. Austria mug is broken because I feel like I can hear a really subtle bubbling sound, but equally I'm coming down with a bit of a cold and my nose and my ears just feel a tiny bit off, so I might just be imagining the sound. Either way, door number 13 has bestowed upon me cookie flavour tea, which I feel like sounds delicious, and despite the fact that my cold is giving me a compromised sense of smell, it does smell absolutely delicious. I'm trying to figure out what biscuity smell I'm specifically getting from this, because it does smell really familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on exactly what's familiar about it. I would say it smells kind of chocolatey, which is interesting because the chocolate cake tea the other day, I didn't actually say, but I think was probably my favourite tea that I've had in the calendar so far, because it was just so delicious and tasted great off the bat, but was also one of those flavours that the longer the tea is left to brew and slightly cool down, the more powerful the flavour is. So I really enjoyed that one. I'm hoping this one will be just as delicious. I am, however, going to, as per usual, let it brew for just another moment because it's time to talk about Talking at Night, which I just finished on my lunch break today. This book was so good, and as much as I hate the fact that I kind of liken every single contemporary literary fiction to Sally Rooney, I do feel like, to me and to many other people, she is kind of the oracle of that sort of literature, and so to liken a book to her writing is only a really positive thing, but also I think in this book's case, just such a great way to describe the kind of story that you're about to follow of these two people who have like a, not even an on again off again relationship, but just a constant orbiting into each other's lives. And I think books like this and like Normal People are what I would describe as frustrating in a really addictive way, where you feel this inexplicable connection to the characters and their storylines and feel so frustrated that they're not just doing what you want them to do, but equally knowing that if they did just do what you wanted them to do and it was just a predictable happy romance, there wouldn't be anywhere near as much intrigue or I guess like investment in the characters in their lives, so their frustration is ultimately what gives them power to you as a reader and what makes you so interested in how their lives pan out and whether or not they go down the path that you hope that they will. I really did absolutely love this, and I feel like because of the fact that you get so frustrated with the characters and just so desperately want things to go right for them, you also can kind of feel when you're reading books like this, like you are just like holding in a breath for the whole time because you just like do not know where it's going to go. And as much as I do have room in my heart for those romances that just, you know exactly where they're going to go and how the characters are going to turn out, and you know for a fact that everyone's going to be happy at the end, I also feel like there is something so special about books like this that are not thrillers, they're not mysteries, and yet in a way that you don't often get in other books that focus on love and relationships, you just have no idea where it's going to go. And for me, I think that's just such a special thing and makes these characters feel so real. So really did love this and recommended. Such a great book, and I am now bestowing this recommendation upon everyone, but especially fans of Sally Rooney contemporary literature, because I do just think this is such a great example to scratch the Sally Rooney itch, if you will, because I often feel as though no other literary fiction lives up to the experience I had with Normal People and Conversations with Friends, but I think this book definitely falls into that category. And also the fact that there are a couple of quotes in it from The Great Gatsby, and I can't remember if I showed you this at the beginning, but the like preface or like the pretext to the actual book sort of has a quote from Baz Luhrmann's Great Gatsby 2013, and it says, "I wish I'd done everything on earth with you." And I just think that is such a beautiful quote and really sets the scene for this couple who desperately love one another or certainly have an incredible connection, and yet for some reason or another their paths just keep going in different directions. And I feel like, yeah, incredible. That quote is just the perfect way to describe what we have happening in this book. So big love, big recommend, absolutely incredible, and also such a lovely cover. Now let's hope that that positivity carries over into today's tea. Let's try cookie flavour tea. It's not a bad tea, but it does just kind of taste like a strong, slightly fruity English breakfast tea. It doesn't really taste like a cookie or like a biscuit. It smells really nice, but the flavour is not blowing me away, whereas the chocolate tea, I feel like it says it tastes like chocolate, it smells like chocolate, and you have a sip and it really does taste of chocolate. So not a bad tea, but certainly not like incredible blowing you away tea. But with that said, I hope you've enjoyed this vlog, catching up with having a Christmassy weekend together, and of course ticking off what actually is one of my favourite books of the year. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for another episode of Vlogmas very, very soon.